A very good morning to one and everyone present in today's workshop. My name is Sid, and our agenda on today's workshop is going to be on streamlining the AD users and how effectively we can start managing Office 365 accounts and the Exchange mailboxes. Once again, thank you so much for attending in today's workshop and taking the time for this. So before we get started, we're just going to do a quick recap on what we had performed in the previous one. We had learned how to create user accounts with the help of a CSV and with the help of a template, and how we were able to correlate both of these modules successfully. So with the help of a template, we had learned how to set mandatory attributes, how you can define a template based on a specific department, and so on. And with that said, we have also learned how exactly are you able to create accounts based on a specific OU defining the specific group membership. At the same time, we were also able to provision AD accounts with Exchange or Office 365 all within a single window. And of course, the best part, we were also able to learn how you can detect and handle the duplication when creating accounts. Now these were covered in the first workshop, and yes, I will be providing a link for that in case if you have missed it. And our agenda is going to be for today will be more in terms of modification over here. So a lot of times you might have difficulties in making changes to the user's SMTP address. So you will have to go to the Exchange Management Console, make changes, or use partial scripts to make those changes again. But with the help of AD Manager, I'm going to show you how easy and how effective it is to start modifying these accounts without any hassles. At the same time, we're also going to learn how exactly you can update the user's group membership whenever the department or if their title is being modified. So let's say, for example, if you're from the administration side, and that of course will have a few subcategories. You might have a contract employee moving to the marketing team, or you might have someone moving from the finance team or to the accounts team, and you would want to ensure those groups are being changed or the manager is being changed when one department is being changed to another. This is where we're going to learn on the second one. And of course, what happens when you try to decommission an old file server? Yes, the best part is you can move those home folders with the content to the new one. That's why we're going to learn with the third one over here, moving users home folder when you need to decommission a file server. And of course, so if you don't have an Exchange, of course you will have an Office 365. And what better when you have AD Manager to effectively handle the Office 365 license management. That topic is also going to be covered in today's workshop. And of course, the final pieces in today's workshop would be more in terms of how you can migrate the mailboxes in both and also archive the Exchange mailboxes for the disabled AD accounts. And we will be also getting to know more about user modification in this workshop today. So with that said, I'm going to quickly share the product screen over here for you. So I am going to send out the user credentials so that you can log in to our AD Manager Plus product over here. So for those who do not have a test installation, you can use the one which I'm going to show that to you in chat. And there you go. The username is going to be ADMP. The password is going to be workshop W capitalized, and the logon to is going to be the AD Manager Plus authentication. So this is being hosted over the internet, and please do let us know in case if you have any difficulties in logging in to this product. With that said, let me now log into AD Manager. Alright, so our focus today is going to be more in terms of user modification and how effectively it is you will be able to analyze and you'll be able to manage your user accounts with, of course, a product. So with that said, I'm just going to do a quick test creation with an Exchange mailbox over here, and we'll be using that account to perform all the modifications over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on create single user, Now, as we had learned in the last workshop itself, with AD Manager, it is completely easy to provision all the Exchange properties or link or even Office 365 within this single window. And that's exactly what we're going to do over here right now. Simple fact over here is that I'm just going to input the first name. Let's call this user Steve. And we're going to input the last name as Smith. And if you notice, yep, they all have been populated based on the template I would choose over here. So the template is a feature in AD Manager which will allow you to pre-populate these defined attributes as per your requirement. The group membership can be filled in, or the respective exchange properties or the link properties. So for now, this one's a fresh one, so I can decide in which container this user should be created. And I will get into the account tab to provide the respective password and the account properties too. Alright, so I've now filled in the password, and I can define the UAC properties, the logon sections, and also the group membership as well. And of course, the exchange part. So I'm going to come into Exchange and I would select the mailbox enabled user because this is the account that we would be modifying today. So we click on mailbox enabled user. We would then choose the respective mail server and then the mailbox store. And with that said, I will simply click on create. So if you notice, I don't have to use any scripting methodologies over here, or I don't have to access the Exchange Management Console. All I had done from my end is just input the first name, last name, and in case the template has been defined, yep, as simple as that. The user account is now successfully created. You compare this with native Active Directory, this is a way lot faster. So with that said, what I'm going to do is we will now start modifying this account, the Steve Smith over here. Now first task would be in terms of how exactly you can easily manage the SMTP addresses over here. So there are a lot of reasons, you might have a requirement to modify the SMTP address. Let's say in case if it is someone, who is getting married and they are supposed to change their last name over here, you might have one requirement over there. Or let's say in case if your organization has acquired another child organization and you would like to ensure that all the naming formats for those exchange mailboxes are the same. So in many scenarios, you will always wonder what would be the best way, to ensure that I can manage these, proxy address to ensure that I have got a complete uniformity. Well, worry no more. We've got all that covered for you in AD Manager. So I'm going to start off with, how exactly I'm going to, perform this modification. So before that, I'm just going to quickly check in case if the exchange properties have been set for my user, which is Steve. So we get into Steve account over here, and just to do a quick recap, I had just went into modify single user. That's under the AD management. And when I get into modify single user, I've got the option to search for my test account. So Steve, we will now be modifying your account over here. So I click on modify user and I'm going to head away straight to the exchange tab. And this is where, I will find out Steve's exchange properties. So there you go. I've got Steve's SMTP address being set. Now this is based on the recipient policy. Now, like the scenarios I've mentioned or something which you might come up with your requirement, we will now be modifying Steve's SMTP address over here. So I will be adding a secondary, or I might be modifying the primary ones. We're going to look that over here right away itself. So with that said, I will now get back to AD management. And my first task is going to modify the SMTP address of Steve. So I'm going to click on create users, modify users over here. And before that, I'm going to ensure that I would need a specific CSV file to make this modification. Now, how simple a CSV file is going to be? Well, I'm just going to show that to you right away itself. Now the only attribute what we would be using for this episode is going to be the SAM account name for modification. And what attribute I am going to use for modifying these SMTP address, it's going to be the proxy address attribute over here. Now you might wonder, why exactly am I using these LDAP headers over here? Now, in terms of modification itself, Microsoft has got its own policy to ensure that we would modify only based on the LDAP headers. And to give you a quick view, what are the LDAP headers that modification basically support? Well, I'm just going to quickly show that to you on the help pane I have over here on my top right hand side. And it's going to be under creating users. On the user management field, I would click on create users and creating bulk users over here. So these are the basic Microsoft documentation on CSV files over here. We've got a complete set of user object attributes. And of course, we've got a few sample CSV files as well on how exactly, you can modify these accounts over here. But ours is going to be more in terms of the LDAP attributes that we would be providing. And here you go. So for instance, if I need to modify an account, if I need to modify the logon name of a user, I would be using SAM account name. Or if I need to modify the telephone number of an account, these are the LDAP headers I would be using to make the modifications. So with that said, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to simply modify the SMTP address of my account. Now to give you a quick look, what is our account over here? It's going to be Steve Smith. So let me go ahead and extract Steve's account over here to ensure that we're doing this the right way. Alright, so this is Steve's account. Now when it comes to proxy address, this is going to be the format over here. So I'm going to input this in double quotes over here. And what I'm going to modify, the SMTP address of course. So you might have wondered what exactly am I using the uppercase symbol over here. Now the uppercase SMTP means this is going to be the primary SMTP address for Steve. So I'm going to make it like steve.smith at workshop.admp, and I'm going to add a secondary SMTP address as well, and I've separated them by a semicolon, and this is going to be the secondary one. It's going to be steve.smith at admp.cloud.workshop. So with that said, I will now have this saved as a CSV file, and we'll have this named as Steve. Now we'll have to ensure that this is being saved in the format of a CSV file over here right now. So once saved, what I'm going to do is I will now make a modification to this account. So what I do is I get into AD management, and I'm going to use a CSV file. So I'm going to click on modify users over here. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to import the CSV file. I will now choose a CSV file over here, which is Steve. I will now click on OK. Alright, so if you notice over here, there might have been an issue with the CSV file. So it means that this is the best part of AD Manager. It would ensure that in case if I've made a mistake, it would give me a correction. So I'm going to quickly check what mistake I've done over here. There you go. So if you notice over here, the one I've missed out is the comma over here. And this is important when you do it in terms of a CSV file. You will have to separate the values based on commas in terms of the LDAP headers over here. So with that said, I will now make a modification. I'm going to click on update in 80. Now, the attribute that's going to be modified is going to be the proxy address. And which attribute is it going to query in 80? It's going to be the SAM account name over here. Now you might wonder what exactly is the advanced options over here in the modification. So when you click on the modification options over here, you will have the option to append values. Now our target over here is to make a replacement of the one which we have. So it's not going to be append, it's going to be a replacement or an overwrite over here. So I'm going to uncheck this and I click on OK, and I will now click on update in AD. It took less than a few seconds over here to have this proxy address being updated. That's how quick AD Manager Plus is. Now, if you make a note of the proxy address I've modified, let me just go back to AD Management and search for Steve's account over here. So I now get into modify single user. I will now verify in case if the modification what I have made has been reflected. So we'll get back to Steve's account. We will now click on modify user over here, and yep, you guessed it, I'm going back to the exchange tab over here. There you go. This was a modification I have made for Steve's account. So this is how efficiently you can start modifying your proxy address over here. Now, coming up to our second task on how exactly you can start standardizing your naming formats. That's going to be our task number 2. So we've learned how exactly you can modify the SMTP address using a simple CSV file. Hey, now you might have a question that this is just for one account. What about multiple accounts? I've got about, let's say, 200 accounts that I need to modify, and I just have a limited time. That's a panic button over there, but no. When we go with AD Manager, this is going to be a simple task again. So you might wonder what exactly would be my next step. Well, all I would do is, now this is going to be an SMTP address modification. The task would be in terms of Exchange task, modifying the SMTP address. Now I've got about 200 accounts on one specific OU which I need to make the modification with. So what I will do, I will just get into proxy address over here. I can click on add, and this is going to be appending, so which means I'm not going to replace any of my SMTP address. Instead, I'm just going to add another one. So again, uppercase SMTP over here means this is going to be the primary one. And what am I going to use? I'm going to input the percentage given name percentage dot the last name SN at admp.net. This would be my primary SMTP address. I'm going to add another SMTP address. It could be my second one over here. And that's going to be again percentage given name. A given name over here is the first name, like the one which we had viewed in the LDAP headers, dot percentage SN at admpcloud.net. Now there are two options. I can make a modification. I can input a CSV import like the one which we had viewed earlier, or I can leave it empty, search, make my search limited based on a specific OU, and just click on search, and this will display all the names. But let's say I'm just going to do it for one account over here to show you how exactly it's being done. I'm going to search for Steve, click on search. Alright, so there you go, I've got Steve's account over here, and now I'm going to click on apply. There you go. Steve's account has been successfully modified by the values that I have provided over here. So a quick check again. We go back to Steve's account over here. We get into modify single user. Search for Steve. And we now get into the exchange properties. So that's the difference. This hasn't made the replacement, but this is appending the values, and that's the exact thing what we have done. So Steve.Smith has a primary address right now. With that said, our second task would be in terms of standardizing naming formats. Now, like I earlier said, there might be a various scenarios, you might need to ensure that the naming format is always universal for your accounts. You might have a new application coming up in the market, which will ensure that the account's first name, it should be the format of first name dot last name, or first initial last name at the domain.com, to ensure that application works with the user. Or you might just to ensure that for your convenience, for searching accounts, you might have to ensure that this is the format that the user accounts should have. You might have a user like, let's say, one account will be a first initial last name like S Smith, or another account will be having Steve.Smith or Steve Michael Smith at the domain. Well, this is where the confusion lies. So if you understand what I'm trying to input over here, we need a universal format for the accounts. And how are we going to achieve that using AD Manager? I am going to use a naming attributes task under the bulk user modification. So with that said, what I will do is, now I'm going to ensure that I'm going to show you how easy it is to create my own naming format. Although I have a few over here, but I'm going to show you how easy it could be. So we're going to click on create your own format over here. That's right, AD Manager gives you the option to create your own naming formats, because when you go with ADUC, no, it's always tough. I'm going to go with AD Manager, and here it goes. So instead of first name last name, I want to make it like first initial last name. So it's going to be S Smith for all my users. The first character of the first name, I will click on add, and then the last name over here, all the characters. So this is going to be our test workshop naming format. I'll have this saved right now. So which means this is going to be, instead of Steve Smith, it would be S Smith over here. Let's now have this saved, and we will now get back to the AD management, where we're going to standardize the naming formats of our accounts over here. And we click on naming attributes, and my task is to ensure that the logon naming format is going to be first initial last name. Now, in case if there's another account already with S.Smith, it might give you a duplication, but we don't have that one, so we don't have to worry about it. And of course, I can also ensure I can change the full name format to anything, the ones over here. It could be first name space last name, first initial last name, anyhow I wish to. But for now, let's just make it only with the logon name format over here. Again, I'm just going to go with Steve's account over here. Let me also have the Sam account name populated too. So Steve, we are now modifying your logon naming format and the user principal. I've chosen naming format over here. I've got Steve's account right now. Now if you notice, this is Steve's current format. Steve Smith. Okay. So I would now click on apply, and ours was going to be S Smith. Alright, so there you go. The modification has been successful. S Smith at the domain, S Smith is going to be the SAM account name. So that's how simple it is to modify the naming attributes in AD Manager. Not at all a problem. It was completely hassle-free. Again, you simply would go back to AD Management. For those who just missed out this, just get into naming attributes. We had learned how to set up your own naming format. Once again, you might have doubts like, is it possible to add an employee ID in the naming format, or is it possible to add any custom text in the naming format? Yes, you can do it under the naming format options. If you get into click over here, create your own naming format, you can absolutely add those too. And of course, I had chosen naming format, search for the account, applied, and there you go. That's how modification is being done. Now for those who don't have an Exchange but have Office 365 instead, we will come back shortly on Office 365. And now what we're going to do is something common for all our administrators: bulk user modification. We modify accounts on a day-to-day basis. It could be like, let's say moving an account or deleting an account or even restoring accounts. We have to do that on a daily basis. This is a 24/7, something which we have signed up for. Changes done every now and then. Our first task, let me show you how exactly and how simple it is to move home folders. What would be the scenario for you to move the home folders over here? Well, a lot of times you might experience that users complaining, hey, I'm not able to access my file share, it's being too slow, or you might wonder that one of your file servers is probably like, let's say 2003, and you will have plans of upgrading to a new 2008, or you might be you might have plans to have it completely decommissioned and then move those home folders to a new file server, let's say 2008 or 2012. How is AD Manager going to help you with this? Well, just click on Move Home Folders, and it's going to be as simple as that. So the only option, what I'm going to do over here, just click on Move Home Folder to. Of course, you've got the option to map the drive, and the format over here is specified. It's going to be / the server name, or the file server name over here, followed by the shared directory. Let's make it a home folder /. That's how simple it is. I just have to input the new location over here. The same applies well to the profile path too. Now the interesting feature over here is that you can also ensure that for whatsoever reason, you can also ensure that the copy is still being retained in the original location as well, which means if you're moving the home folder from 2003 to 2008 file server, you can also ensure that the home folder still stays in the 2003, even though being moved into the new server. Your next question would be, in case if the content is going to be moved from the old one to the new one? Absolutely yes. You will have the contents in the home folder moved in from the old one to the new one as well. That's the whole point, of moving home folders functionality in AD management. Once again, all I would do is I can either import a CSV file, or I can leave it blank, choose a specific OU, click on search, or I can simply input the names one by one, separating them by commas. That's how simple it is to move the home folders. Now, of course, we had learned how exactly we can move these home folders right now. Once in a while, you might have to, let's say, make a certain reprovisioning for a certain account. What would be the best options you think you can manage using the bulk user modification? Now, of course, a lot of Exchange admins and the admins have told me that it is important to remove all the users group membership, because let's say in case if it's going to be a sensitive account, having the group memberships removed would always ease out the burden, and of course would make us feel even more safer. And how exactly am I going to make the modification? Well, if you think I'm going to go to ADUC, modify the user, remove the group one by one, that's not what I'm going to do. Instead, I will go into group attributes over here, and I've got the option called clear all group memberships. That's how it is. One single check. Again, I can modify this using a CSV file, or have an OU chosen. It could be a disabled users OU in case if I've moved the account from the original OU location to a disabled users OU location. Or if I've got a CSV file, no problem. I can just click on CSV import, choose a CSV file, or just simply have it searched by the accounts over here. I click on Steve. I will click on search. And there you go. We are now going to remove all the memberships for Steve over here. If you notice, Steve is a part of domain admins. Of course, domain users is still going to be up over here. And there you go. I've now clicked on apply. Steve has now been removed from domain admins. That's how quick it is to remove the group memberships of an account. Now your second task, of course, now that the administrator has removed all the group memberships, what would be the next task? Now I can go ahead and ensure, let's say after 15 or 20 days, and I've made a note that this account has to be disabled. Enable disable users. This option over here under bulk user modification makes it easy. Now I can have the account disabled. At the same time, I can also ensure that the account should expire based on a specific date. So one day after the account has been disabled, the account has to be expired. In a few clicks, I will now click on Steve, and here you go. I have now successfully going to disable Steve's account. So Steve has now been disabled. Okay, that's good enough. So I have modified, I've removed the group memberships of the account, I've disabled it. What next? Now I need to delete it? Absolutely yes. I will now get back to AD management again, and now I've got an option called delete users under the bulk user modification. Now let's say I will now again search for Steve, and I click on search. Now, for instance, let's say I've got two accounts. I've got the username Steve over here, which contains Steve. Sorry for that. So I'll now click on apply, and what happens over here is the account has now been deleted. Now, let us say for instance, okay, that's a wrong Steve I have deleted. I need to restore it back again. What would be a next task? Now, if you wonder, I have to go back to ADUC. Once again, this is going to be completely with the help of AD Manager. I am not going to ADUC, but I can simply click on the option restore deleted users over here. The best part now, of course, you will have a lot of backup tools over here, and we all know the pain when you try to use a backup software to recover a single account. It's going to take you a lot of time because backups, go based on a specific, a complete snapshot, not just based on one specific user account. AD Manager will ease out that task for you. So no complex tasks involved over here. I will simply use the option to restore the account Steve. Now if you notice over here, it says a clear message stating that the recycle bin feature is not enabled for this domain, and only the mandatory attributes will be restored, such as the SAM account name, of course. Now why exactly is this being displayed? Now if you notice over here, if your forest function level is 2008 arts and above, only then you've got the recycle bin feature, that only if that is enabled, we will have the option to restore all the attributes, including group membership, title, description, any AD attributes. But let's say in case the recycle bin feature is not enabled, you will only have the option to restore the account, and the account status is going to be disabled. Now it is high time you actually get onto your AD and find out what your forest function level is. In case if it has the capability to increase it to 2008 arch and above, go for it. And in case if you haven't enabled the recycle bin, I think now would be the best time to do it. We all perform accidental deletions every now and then, of course, accidentally, and AD Manager is the best way to restore that account. So with that said, I will now search for Steve, click on search, and this value, this account is being searched upon the tombstone in your AD over here, and there you go. I've got Steve's account. I will now click on apply. Once again, since the recycle bin feature is not being enabled, I will only be able to retain only the mandatory attributes. That's restore deleted users for you. And I would definitely encourage you to play around with the product over here, since this is being hosted over the internet 24/7. Go ahead, take your time, perform as many user creations and modifications you wish to before you try to perform a change in your production environment. This will definitely give you an amazing way, to manage your user accounts before you actually try to perform them in your AD. That's AD Manager Plus for you over there. So with that said, we've learned a few ways, how exactly we can modify these accounts with the help of bulk user modification. And of course, we've just got a few more tasks, and one among them would be migrating mailboxes over here. Your first question is, hey, are you saying that will I be able to, migrate a mailbox from an older version of Exchange to a new version? Yes, that is what we are going to perform over here. Now, the first question, you might have 2003 to 2007, that works great. What about something if I need to do from 2010 to 2007? No, that is not possible in Exchange itself because it only gives you an option to move from a lower version to a higher version. You will not be able to perform a downgrade over here. And of course, now the options what I have, I can simply go and choose Exchange Server and the mailbox database over here. Once again, I can simply choose the account, click on search, and then have it applied. The mailbox will now be moved in from the 2003 Exchange Server to the 2010. Now, for those of you coming up with 2013 and 2016, good news, you can easily use the feature in terms of migrate mailbox. 2016 is being coming shortly in the upcoming service packs. I would just like to keep you that posted. So with that said, we have learned how exactly you can make a few clicks to modify or you can migrate the mailboxes from one lower Exchange version to another. With that said, I'm now going to show you a quick task on how effectively you can manage Office 365 licenses. Yes, the wait is finally over here. Now, there's always, because Office 365 is strictly based on the license in terms of the accounts over here, it is always necessary to ensure that the accounts, which are inactive, you can definitely have them removed. There are two ways you can do it. One, of course, I can click on the Assign Remove Licenses over here, but there's a efficient way how exactly, we can do this cleanup over here. I've got something for you under the AD reports. Again, we are not deviating from the task on how exactly we're going to perform the cleanup, but hey, look into Office 365 reports over here. We've got a report called inactive users. This inactive users will report on the accounts who've been inactive for n number of days. Now, since this being a test environment, I might not be able to, get certain details over here, but yes, if it's going to be in your environment, give it a go. Try to click on generate, and you've got the option to list out all the accounts who've been inactive for the last 90 days. So once I get that report, I can simply have that exported or I can have that analyzed, and based on those accounts over there, which have not been inactive for the last n days, I can use the Office 365 management category to remove those licenses. So all I would do from my end is simply click on assign/remove licenses over here. And what I can do, what are the options I can perform over here? I can choose in the accounts over here, or once again, the import CSV file option. You can simply use the file which you can derive from the Office 365 inactive users report. You could use this under the Office 365 management. Click on the accounts over here, and what are the options I can do? I can add licenses, I can replace a license, I can even remove the selected licenses or just remove all the licenses. These are the options I can perform effectively under the Office 365 management option. So with that said, AD Manager can perform the tasks what you find difficult in AD, but hey, it's quite simple when you go with AD Manager Plus. So just to give you a quick recap on the tasks that we had performed in today's workshop, well, we had learned how exactly, it is easy to, to change and modify the naming formats, be it the naming format itself, like SAM account name or the SMTP address. And we had learned how exactly can move the home folders, when decommissioning the file servers over here. Another task what we had learned is to identify and free up the licenses of inactive accounts. We also learned how you can migrate mailboxes in bulk, and a few tasks what I might have missed out would be in terms of archiving the Exchange mailboxes over here. I'm sorry for that. So yes, you also have an option to archive a user's mailbox. We've got those tasks under the Exchange task where you can archive the user mailbox over here. Once again, it's quite simple. I will just have the option to enable archive mailbox for the account, or let us say, for instance, if I need to perform a disable operation for my mailbox over here, I will just get into disable mailbox over here and then provide the account. As simple as that. Now, a quick task, what I would like to wrap up, before, we conclude the session is going to be one in terms of the user modification template. So there have been scenarios in which, you might move in from one department to another or one office to another office. How exactly is this user modification template going to help you out with? Well, this is something which makes it even more interesting. So I'm going to go something like, say, IT department template over here. And what this would do is, in case if I move, let's say in case if my title, or if I'm being moved from one office to another location, or if my title changes from accounts to finance, so and so group memberships have to be defined for that account. And where am I going to do that? I'm going to do that under the modification rules over here. Now, if you notice over here, it says in case the department of the account is being changed to information and technology, these are the group memberships that has to be defined. So I'm going to go with an IT department based template. Of course, the IT department itself, will have a lot of departments. It could be IT, it could be support, it could be technical analysis. So I'm going to add another condition over here as well. I'm going to add in a second rule. So in case if now we're just going to have that compared to the first one. So I'm going to choose a department, and this is going to be in terms of, let's say, technical analyst. And what should happen in case the department is being set to technical analyst? Well, the respective group membership should also be defined. So there you go. In case if the department is going to be information and technology, these are the group membership that have to be defined. I'm sorry, it's going to be vice versa over here. So in case if the department is technical analyst, the group membership should be assigned with a few of the groups relevant to the technical analyst over here. So there you go. Department IT, these are the values. Department technical analyst, these are the values over here. So what I'm going to do is I'll just have this saved. And how easy it is going to be over here. Of course, I can add as many rules over here in terms of my modification. So which means when I need to modify an account over here, I will simply go back to AD management. I will now click on modify single user. Now let's choose any of these accounts over here. Let's go for Bob Smith over here right now, for instance. So when I get into Bob's account over here, my operation is to ensure that in case Bob has been assigned for the department IT, those are the group memberships, or if Bob has been assigned for a technical analyst, those should be the groups. So I will now get into contact tab where Bob's department has been specified over here. So currently no department being specified, so let us say I go with information and technology. So for now, Bob, shouldn't be having any groups, what should be assigned. He's just got domain users. Well, when I click on preview over here, I'm going to find out what a change is going to be. But wait a minute, I haven't done the change yet. Oops, sorry for that. Alright, so go back to Bob's account. I get into modify user. Now I'm going to choose a template, the IT department template over here, and I click on OK because that's the template I've made the change over here. So what I will do now is I will go back to the contact tab and now I've got the option to choose Bob's department or to modify Bob's department over here. So let's say it's going to be technical analyst right now. Just going to do a quick preview and see what are the changes that are going to be made. And of course, so based on the operations what I had defined in the rule-based modification, Bob's, there you go. So we've got Bob's group membership being defined based on the attribute. These were the options. So I will now just click on update user. As simple as that. So just by changing, the department, the respective group memberships have been populated. That's how simple AD Manager Plus user modification template is. You can create as many rules. It could be, rules based on your administration side or on the ID section side. It's quite easy to define these rules and the specific conditions. That's how simple the user modification template is using AD Manager. Now, so before we wrap up today's workshop, I once again want to thank you so much for being an amazing audience, because without you these workshops are not possible. And yes, you will have an option to provide a feedback so that we can improve on the next topics over here. Let us know what topics you are interested with so that we can come up with those scenarios in our upcoming features, because this workshop is not for us but it's for you. Let us know again the scenarios which you face on your day-to-day tasks or the tasks that you want to accomplish using AD Manager. We are all ears, and we would definitely make necessary steps to ensure that those are being accommodated in the upcoming versions. In case if you have missed the previous session, I will go ahead and send you out a link so that you can have access to the previous one. For any other doubts, do drop us an email or do put us in chat. We'll be more than glad to assist you. Thank you so much again for taking the time to be with us. This is Sid. Have a wonderful good afternoon. Bye-bye.